For this Tuesday. As you see, we are in Ecuador, it is in the middle. Estamos en el Ecuador de esta jornada trepidante de la Mobile World Capital Barcelona Foundation en este stand del hall número 6. Como veis, aquí tenemos ahora el foco puesto en Giga. Yes, we focus on Giga, esta iniciativa de la ONU para conectar en Internet todas las escuelas del mundo que podemos ya dar cifras exactas que, expandida a 34 países, ha aumentado la actividad de su centro tecnológico de Barcelona. Aproximadamente, para que se pongan en contexto, la mitad de las escuelas del mundo siguen sin conexión a Internet. Una brecha digital que pone esas comunidades más desfavoridas en riesgo de quedarse aún más atrás en esa dificultad, ¿no? De ese poder seguir adelante con sus 17 Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible de las Naciones Unidas para 2030. Nuestra agenda que nos marca también nuestra manera de actuar como sociedad. Así pues, en estas cifras que vamos a recordar, justamente nuestra charla nos pone en este contexto. Recent milestones towards universal school connectivity. It will be next panel session with all of these European speakers. The event, hosted by the Mobile World Capital Barcelona Foundation, will provide an overview of Giga achievements in 2023 with a key focus on Giga's Barcelona Technology Center and plans for this year, 2024. More specifically, it will discuss Giga's achievements to date with a focus on the recently operational Barcelona Technological Center. That is to say, interesting session talking about a hub for developing open source technology, a space for bringing together the Barcelona-based connectivity ecosystem, a center for knowledge generation, distribution, and learning, and obviously highlighting the outcomes of the partnership between Giga and the Spanish government, the regional government of Catalonia, and the City Council of Barcelona. So we are about to start with the presentation with Edward Martin, CEO from Mobile World Capital Barcelona. So thank you very much. Pleasure.
Technology. Thank you, Ellie. Welcome to the Mobile World Capital Foundation booth. It's a pleasure for us to host this session, to review the project that Giga approved. In my opinion, Giga approved is one of the most amazing projects in the world related to provide the best connectivity for all the schools in the world. This is a fantastic goal. We are very honored to participate in this project, of course, because we have the Technological Center of Barcelona is an honor for us. Nothing more for my part. Enjoy this session. I think that you have very challenged with this project, and enjoy this session and welcome at your home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Edward. Now we continue with the intervention of Doreen Bogdan Martin. It's a pleasure to introduce her General Secretary of ITU. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hola, buenos dias. It's great to see so many colleagues and friends of Giga here with us today, and it's great to be back at Mobile World Capital at this stand where we gathered last year, and to be together with the ITU's founding partner, UNICEF, of course, the government of Spain, the regional government of Catalonia, and the city of Barcelona represented here today. I do want to thank Mobile World Capital Foundation for hosting this event. I think we're all here today, ladies and gentlemen, because we believe in the power of connectivity to transform education. I wanted to mention an example of a young woman, a beneficiary of Giga, and her name is Brianna, and she comes from Jose Vicente Cáceres Basic Education Center, which is in Honduras. And I think she said it best, and she said reimagining education means that it no longer has to be about books and about blackboards. It's also about having fun when you're connected, being able to learn, think, dream, and grow your imagination. And Brianna is one of more than 30,000 students in remote and marginalized and rural communities in Honduras whose lives have been transformed by the impact of this Giga initiative. It's also important to note that less than 6% of the school's countries are connected in her country. So she's lucky and she knows it, and she wishes that Giga would be able to deliver for all so that all children have the same rights. And this includes millions of school-age refugee children who are currently missing out on formal education around the world. Here too, Giga has been actively engaged on the refugee side, mapping refugee schools. We made a pledge through our partner to Connect Digital Coalition and through UNHCR's Global Compact on Refugees. So ladies and gentlemen, every school that we map, every school that we connect, every student, I should say, that we connect brings us closer to the goal. Last year, Giga made important strides towards connecting every school to the internet by the end of the decade. At this point, we're at 2.1 million schools that we have mapped across 140 countries, which is pretty exciting. And we've been using really interesting, emerging technologies to be able to map those schools using machine learning, using satellite imagery. So far, we have about 90,000 schools in 22 countries that are reporting real-time connectivity. We have 34 countries that are officially Giga countries, and we have, I would say, a long wait list of other countries that are wanting to join. And of course, that's not all. We're very excited about the growing Giga Technology Center right here in Barcelona that's now up and running, and I was pleased to be there for the inauguration. This is really an important hub, part of this project and process. It's all about open source tech innovation around school connectivity, and it's also a space to be able to convene Barcelona's very vibrant connectivity ecosystem. So we're really delighted at the progress that has been made thus far. Also, Giga's headquarters has now been established in Switzerland, and we're very focused there on activities in learning, financing, contracting, and knowledge exchange. And being in Geneva, as you can imagine, we're able to leverage Geneva's financial, tech, and international development scene. Giga's success really depends on solid multi-stakeholder collaboration, and that it's really important that we have partners like Spain and that we have partners like Switzerland that are pushing us forward in this effort. So I do want to thank them again for their invaluable support. And I also want to thank the whole Giga team, many of which are here with us today, that are helping to bring together the ITU and UNICEF teams to be able to map, to be able to model, to be able to finance and help in the contracting. And those are the 4 key areas of Giga. And I think that cooperation between governments and industry, amongst 2 important UN agencies, is really making a difference in the communities that we're targeting. I do think that Giga stands out not just as an initiative, but also as a lasting commitment to closing the educational gap and at the same time closing the digital divide. 2024 is the year, I think, that we move from being a startup to something that we want to be able to scale, and of course want to be able to make sure that as we scale, that this is sustainable. So thanks again to everyone for being here, and let's also remember Brianna's words: all children have the right to learn, to dream, and to grow their imagination. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Doreen Bogdan-Martin, Secretary General from ITU. Congratulations for all these goals achieved. And now time to listen to Katie van der Heijden, Deputy Executive Director, the partnerships from UNICEF. We are very glad to listen your words. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Doreen, for, as always, being so articulate, so eloquent about saying why ITU and UNICEF work together. Because you might think, what does an organization that works on children do with an organization that works on tech? Well, let me tell you one thing. When Doreen and I left high school, the world looked very different than it looks by now. And if you're not connected to the digital world, and if you have no digital skills, you cannot have a life in dignity. That's why we partner. That's why Giga was conceived. No doubt by two women. Why is this so important? And why do we call it Giga? Because Giga is as gigantic as our ambition. Just imagine that we could connect every school around the world to the digital domain. And that we could connect every individual to opportunity, to choice, to information. And actually we can nowadays. And the beauty of being here in Barcelona is that we know very well, both ITU and UNICEF, no matter how big and important and qualified we are, we cannot do this alone. This ambition really requires a partnership thinking. This requires public-private partnerships. Why are we here? Because in Barcelona, this is where the ecosystem is that enables us to leverage digital technology for school connectivity. And we're here because of Spain, because the government of Spain. We need public partners to help us do that. What do we have from Spain? We have every layer of the government supporting us. It's the central government, it's the federal government of Catalonia, and it is the city of Barcelona. Now, hace muchos años yo estudié en México y ahí me dijeron, mi casa es su casa. For me, Barcelona, España, es mi casa, because that is what Spain has brought to us, an ecosystem of partners in the public and the private sector. But it is also beyond the startups, the academia with whom we work, like the Harbour Space University and others. We can only do this if we work together. Why it matters? I want you to recognize one statistic, 50%. Why 50%? Because 50% of schools in today's world are not connected to the internet. And that means that 50% of school children are not connected to tomorrow's economy. And we can and we must do better. And we've learned during COVID that we can actually bring connectivity in schools, but we can bring it in a digital way. But what we've also seen is now that COVID is over, investments are falling. Over a third of the digital learning platforms and apps that were developed during COVID to help children learn in the digital domain are either no longer functioning or are not being maintained for children. That is why connectivity to schools matters so much. Now, what Giga does, and I think Doreen has already mentioned it, it's really important that we build open source technology so that everybody can use it to help governments map where are schools. Now, you may think that that is normal. Of course, the government knows where schools is. Well, no, they don't. Because we've used those GPS data. And you know what? There are huge numbers of schools that aren't even in a school system in governments in developing countries. Or if you take their GPS locations, actually, you end up with schools being in the middle of the ocean. Right? So being able to be very precise where schools are that need to be connected is incredibly important. It starts with that. Then you help to assess which ones are connected. Then you help to evaluate the cost. And then what we do is to help them overcome a huge burden, which is the procurement process. And doing this in a way that doesn't just serve the affluent urban communities, but reaching those that are left furthest behind, because that's our motto for UNICEF. For every child, that's who we are. Thank you, Doreen, for being a fantastic partner. Thank you to the government of Spain, the federal government of Catalonia, and the city of Barcelona, and for all of you here, because we can do this with your help. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kitty, for your encouraging words. Now, just before to continue on, time to take the family photo. If you, I have your presence here in the middle of this auditorium just to take this family photo from YT you, UNICEF, and the rest of people coming from the government and the rest of authorities involved in this incredible, fantastic project. Giga, that's it. Thank you. Yes, this is a family photo from Giga's project. Now we're all in. Thank you very much. And what about a big applause for them? Why not? Connecting all the schools from all over the world. Thank you very much. Extensive to each part of this planet. Planet B, planet virtual, planet digital, but it's connecting people, connecting new ones, the new talent coming from the schools, because they have the right dream, no, the growth to be more efficient, no, and more human, common human sense. So let's go. We continue with two co-leads and colleagues as well. One from I2, Alex Wong, yeah. And the other one is Chris Fabian from UNICEF. So the poll is yours.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
All right, everyone, thank you. We're going to try to follow up on our two bosses who did a great introduction, but we're going to show...
They're gone now, Alex, so we can say whatever we want.
Okay, so we're going to do our Giga video. It's a 1 year old because we haven't had time to refresh the numbers, but I think it's a great video to give you a better idea of what we're doing. So over to the video, please.
Yeah.
All right.
It's still got it. The video's still got it.
2023 annual report is about to get published, and we're going to refresh a new video, but thank you for bearing with us to hear a bit more of our story. So we start with why we did it. I think our two respective heads already gave a great reason, but don't forget, we still have many millions of children not with access to the internet and 2.6 billion people overall that don't have meaningful access. That's really what drove us when we first conceived Giga.
As you've heard, Giga's mission is to connect every school in the world to the internet. And what that really means is just what Doreen and Kitty were talking about, making sure that every young person has access to the same opportunity and choice that we do in this room. So what we want to talk about with you for the next 10 minutes or so is what we've done over the last year, because we were on this same podium a year ago, and what we're going to do in the coming 24 months. We're pretty excited.
As for the UN people here in the room who maybe would only be the ones that find this interesting, but it's really important for us that we leverage the UN platform. The best that the UN can do, when we work well, it means that we can really gain access and political support to all the heads of states. And so we've spent a lot of time in Giga to make sure that the broader UN community understands what Giga is doing. So we're really proud that we've been mentioned in several of the key UN publications over the last couple of years, including the Roadmap for Digital Transformation that the Secretary General launched, the Global Digital Compact, that's the big event happening this year. We were mentioned in the policy brief by the Secretary General as an exemplary initiative that can connect everybody. We spent time at our Transforming Education Summit, where we contributed to the digital learning, call to action, capacity, content, and connectivity. So we're really spending the time to make sure on the global level, we have the highest level of political support.
Fundamentally, Giga is a group of people who do, people who build. And we want to invite everybody here today to think about building with us. So we'll show you a few examples of the type of stuff we are building now. And it all starts with our map. This map, you can click on any of the QR codes on the screen here. The map is available. It's open source. It's a map of every school in the world. Here's a slice of the map, an example from Panama. You see every school in the country. The schools that are green are schools that have connectivity. The schools that are red on here are schools with no connectivity at all. And you can imagine the difference being a young girl growing up in one of the schools that's green or in that community versus the school that's red. What type of things you would have to look forward to, what type of career you might have. Could you think about university? Could you even imagine how to start applying if you didn't have access to the online world? And if you did get access to it, would it be safe or it would be the horrible internet that we're all sort of used to today? This map forms the basis of everything we do, and the map is built here in Barcelona in our Giga Tech Center in Poblenou, where Naroa, where's Naroa? Is running the team that does mapping. So if you have questions about how we map, go talk to her. But we want to build everything on this presentation on how this team is building and making products. We fundamentally look at 4 things in Giga. We're going to share a little bit more detail on each of these with you. But we basically run through in every one of the 40 countries that we're in, mapping, modeling, financing, and contracting. We're going to go into these in more detail, so don't worry if you don't capture all of it on this slide. We want to spend some time on each of these. For us, as I said, the most important thing is mapping. You'll remember the picture of Panama, where there was quite a lot of green. Where are the green dots in Sierra Leone? If you go to the map, you click on the QR code, you can actually see the map of Sierra Leone live. This image is a little bit old, so there are a few more schools around Freetown that are connected now than they were when we made this slide. You can click on each one of the schools, and you'll see its connectivity in real time. The map updates every 4 hours, so suddenly you can track the connectivity of a school. You can see whether or not the service provider for that school is providing the service that they're required to under the contract, and you can see whether or not students are using it. This map in a poor country looks very, very red, but even in the wealthiest countries in the world, there's a huge divide between young people who have access to the internet and people who don't. And suddenly we're starting to make that divide apparent. If you cannot see something, you cannot fix it. And that's why the map is the fundamental piece of everything that we do.
So I go to the model step, and model step, here's a picture of Zimbabwe. What we now do is we overlay on top of where the schools are, where's the current infrastructure, where's the fiber, where are the cell towers, and we do some analysis to figure out what is the amount of the best optimal technology solution, remaining impartial. We're the UN, we don't promote one technology or the other. What's the optimal connectivity solution, and how much it will cost, roughly. So we want to provide now the modeling service that we can now give the information to the outside community on what are the ideal connectivity solutions. Also tied to that would be the policy and regulation levers. In a way, you can imagine that if you could change some of the policy and regulatory levers in a particular country, you might change how the dots look. So some of the yellow dots might now become almost green, or they might be able to be turned green much more easily. So the ability to model not only just where the infrastructure is, but also the policy, regulatory levers, and the things that a country needs to do to really make itself more attractive for investment to get every school connected is part of the modeling step.
So you sort of see the picture of a country, and I invite you to go to the map and check out Brazil, for example. Check out Brazil and look at the Amazonas region. It's the poorest region in the country. It's also the region where, unsurprisingly, they're the most red dots. After you see the problem, and after you understand some of the ways to fix it, you start looking for money to do that. Now, connectivity is expensive. Infrastructure is an expensive thing to build. And we help work with governments to raise the financing that they need to answer the problem that's posed by that map. So the map says there are a lot of red areas in your country. The financing says, here's some money to answer it. We've helped to mobilize resources. Often these are internal monies from inside of the country. They're taxed resources that can be mobilized, or they're loans from big development banks or outside sources. And we help to align those resources with the map, because nobody wants to put money into something if they don't know where that money is going, whether it's a private investment or it's a public grant. With the map, with the clarity of information, we can say with confidence that wherever you're putting your money, something is happening and you can see it in real time. So we're pretty proud of the fact that we're able to raise these finances with our partner governments, and that gets us to the last part of what we do. which is, as Kitty said, then the government's like, we have the money, we see the problem, what do we do next? Writing contracts is very difficult. Writing contracts for public procurement is even more difficult. Writing contracts for roads and bridges and railroads. Writing contracts for public procurement and telecoms is even more difficult. It's something that governments don't often have the subject matter expertise with. They're not quite sure how to build a contract in a way that feels good, that looks good, that has minimum standards in it, that has things like child safety requirements, that says if those schools are turned green, if you connect that school, and if the connection goes away and the school turns red, then we shouldn't pay you for it. Right? Those are sort of obvious things that we might think about, but they may not always be written in a government contract. So we make sure that using our procurement mechanisms, we're helping advise governments on the types of public contracting that they put out and linking all of that back to the map. Because everything is about building products for us and building products that layer data on top of each other so that we can have a better picture of the world. We wanted to tell you a little story about a school in Kenya to kind of put this into perspective and share what Giga does and how we've seen some results even in the last year since we were here at Mobile World Congress. So this is Nun Kapir School. We'll just go back for a second. This is Nun Kapir School. Like, there's Nairobi. This is about 30, 40 kilometers away from Nairobi. If you look at this school, if you're standing here looking at the school on the other side, where all of you are, of the road, so 4 or 5 meters away, there's a lot of electricity cables and there's stuff. But on this side of the road, where the school is, there's nothing. So let's look in the school. Let's go to the next slide. We as Giga helped the government to put out the procurement. We did the mapping of schools in Kenya. We found the gaps. We helped find the financing, and we helped to procure connectivity for this school, for Nun Kapir. Since it's been connected, the academic performance of the school has increased by almost 10%. That's just in the first year, and that doesn't mean that there's a full digital curriculum there. It just means that there's connectivity. Student attendance has also increased, has also doubled in some classes. Now, why would student attendance double? Suddenly, if there's something for you to do in school, maybe it's not even listening to what the teachers are saying, but you can use your phone on the Wi-Fi, there's a lot more reason to go to that school for some hours of the day. But suddenly, also, there's an ability to see the school as something that can give you a chance for the future. If you're going to go to school and spend 5 hours a day wasting your time and thinking there's no hope for you, you're really not incentivized to pay that time forward. If you think that there's some way to reach into the digital future, it's much more exciting. Now, Giga does not do any of this stuff inside of the school. So we don't do the tablets. We don't do the technology inside of the tablets. We don't help the teachers get trained. All of that's done by UNICEF's education team working with the government. But we help to provide that heartbeat, the little trickle of blood getting to that school. Let's go to the next slide. The other thing we heard from the school, so this is the head teacher. Her name is Paris. Paris said to us that after her school was connected, she was able to save about 3 hours every month that she'd been spending taking a bus to a town, setting up, going to the internet cafe and sending all of her scores for the exams, attendance and all of that up to the town, up to the national registry. Instead, now that she has internet at school, she can do that from there. So you save her 3 hours a month, which is really a lot of time. And if you save me 3 hours a month and I could do other stuff with it, I'd be infinitely grateful. We're finding, in addition to helping students learn, connectivity helps to create communities around the school where people can do their jobs better, not only inside of the school, like Paris, but even outside. Let's go to the next slide. We find that schools start to become hubs for community access and community internet in the time when kids aren't using the connectivity. And in the last year and a half, we've connected about 13,000 schools. So that's almost 7 million kids. 7 million young people now have access to the internet who didn't 2 years ago. And that number keeps compounding because more kids go to school every year. So from that set of schools, you kind of continue to build. In the next 24 months or so, it says 18 on here, but let's say 24, we're going to connect another 25,000 schools to the internet. So that's another 15 million young people in the 40 countries that we're working on. And so we're super excited next year to come and share the journey with you as we get towards that number. Let's go to the next slide.
So we're now in 34 countries. There's, as Doreen mentioned, a waiting list to get into more. And maybe by now you're starting to see why we might have a chance. Chris and I still say that to connect every school by 2030, let's go for it. Why it might have a chance, all of the things you've seen so far are about the tools and the data. Every additional piece of the puzzle we can fill in by Giga, by making it open source, by making it available, means somebody out there will start figuring out how I can get a school connected that might not have been able to do before, because they don't have the resources to map every school. They don't have the resources to understand the policy regulation framework in a country. The other thing I would say, which is why we have a great partnership with UNICEF, is none of us are actually in the field. Chris and I are both in Geneva. most of our teams here are either in Barcelona or in headquarters, it's because we're now mobilizing our respective fields. And in particular for UNICEF, which has presence in 190 countries, there are people in UNICEF whose job is to make sure kids get educated. So all we got to do is open the door, get them connected, and then we let the market, quote unquote, work, which is also one of the powers of the UN. I mean, we are everywhere. And our job is to kind of advance these things. So in a way, we're really playing that role to sort of give the tools, start the process, get the schools connected. Again, that's not something a UNICEF country manager will do on their own, nor an ITU regional director. But if we can get that happening, then we start unlocking that. So that wouldn't be possible with our partners.
Yeah, over the last few years, we've been supported by all sorts of partners. Partners from the very strange, like Elon Musk, who saw the map, saw the open source data, and thought that was interesting, and then never talked to us again. But that was exciting. To partners like IHS Tower, who find this type of work really fundamental and lined up with their business. Partners like Ericsson, who've helped us build some of the open source applications that are being designed here in Barcelona that are creating the ability to measure school connectivity in real time. And like Liquid, who are giving us data, and Dell, who are providing us with engineers and compute time. So these partners aren't treating this as charity. It's not just money out that they're sort of throwing at something. This is something that's about core business. And if anybody here is in the connectivity industry, I'm going to assume there's some people who are in TMT, because it is Mobile World Congress. You know that last mile connectivity is super, super hard. Rural connectivity is not something all of these companies are able to crack by themselves. But they see that by pooling their data, by pooling their resources, by creating open source tech and working with us, they're able to make a dent in markets that they otherwise might not directly access or be in so closely. And we are also very excited to be supported by the governments that we heard mentioned earlier, by Madrid, Catalonia, and Barcelona, by the government of Switzerland, by Latvia and Estonia as well. Governments who believe and who really made it clear through their commitments that connectivity and safe digital connectivity for kids is everybody's mandate over the coming years.
So we're coming to the last part of our presentation. So just a little more about what we're now doing here in Barcelona with our tech center and what we're going to be doing in Geneva with our new Giga Connectivity Center.
So a quick show of hands. There is audience participation. Who's Barcelona based here? Okay, 1, 2. I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to like take any part of your soul yet. Okay, so if you're Barcelona based and you'd like to work on this project, Naroa and her team in the tech center in Poblenou are here building open source product. If you'd like to engage with them, if you'd like to work with your company, with your data, or with your teams, and find some really exciting use cases for things that you're building, please talk to us, talk to her. The center is open. One of the things that's most exciting for us with the support of the 3 governments that I mentioned is that we're able to bring researchers and technologists from the Giga countries that we're working on here to Barcelona to build products together. So early in May, we're going to have our first showcase of the first product that we're launching from the center, where we'll have government delegations who are the users of it working on that technology with us. And that's kind of neat, because then you start to see impact and users and growth happen in front of you. This center also hosts a great deal of activity around bringing together open source data from countries, the infrastructure data that Alex talked about. And we're very excited that we've just got office chairs as of about a month ago. So it is a startup kind of mode. And by next year, we'll probably have desks. Let's take a look at Geneva.
And I think it's okay, Paula, Jane, if any of you want to come on Friday, it's okay. Friday, we have a Giga Day at Calalier from 9 o'clock until 12:30-ish. And you can sort of see what we're trying to do. We're going to showcase, actually, other solutions in the Spanish ecosystem. So some of you might even be presenting, for all I know. But please, if you're interested to come, let us know, any of the team.
Talk to Jane.
Jane or Paula. So we welcome you to come by. Okay, turning to Geneva, we're actually going to also launch and open a new center that's in process of being built. And here's where we're going to focus on some of the other areas of Giga that are not being focused on in Barcelona. So particularly, we want to focus first on the capacity building. We're going to create a learning hub where we can actually train, provide training and capacity building on school connectivity. We're going to turn to looking at the fund and financing. Did you want to cover that?
Yeah, so we need to be able to mobilize a lot more capital than we are right now. And that doesn't mean that the UN itself needs to mobilize that money, but it means that outside we need to excite the market and help them see that last mile infrastructure, that rural communities are investable and are exciting, and that the technologies that we're talking about can actually help to solve that usage gap. We're also looking at a carbon credits marketplace for connectivity. So if you imagine how carbon credits work and how you allocate credits and you can redeem credits, imagine if you could do that with gigabytes and you could actually tokenize a gigabyte, issue credits for companies that deliver those gigabytes to schools, and redeem those credits later for money. And imagine if you could track that all online. So we're building a marketplace based out of Geneva. And finally, we're using UNICEF's procurement mechanism. UNICEF procures about 12 billion euro a year worth of supplies. We're the world's largest purchaser of vaccines. We purchase emergency supplies for the many, many, many emergencies around the world. And we're the world's single largest purchaser of pencils, which is a fun fact that you might not know. We believe that school connectivity is also a commodity and that we can work with our supply colleagues to create fair pricing and help governments order that commodity in even more bulk and greater quantity and with lower prices. We've seen the prices in countries we're working in for gigabytes in schools lower by up to 55% in Kyrgyzstan, by 50% in Rwanda. So we know that this kind of market movement, market definition can help. And so this is all the work that's happening in Geneva.
I think, I think won't go through all this in detail because we want to leave time for our panel. But that's the goals for the coming year. If you want, take a picture, and then next year when we're back, we'll report back on some of what we're going to try to do.
Don't take a picture and don't hold us to it.
Yeah. So
but I guess maybe we can just say on this that we feel like Giga's now at an inflection point. We've got the support and funding from Switzerland, from the governments here. We've got facilities. We're building product that you can see online. It's working. Follow that QR code. Play around with the map. Tell us what you think about it. The next year is about scale, and so all of these things reflect the efforts that we're going to go through over the next few months to really start bringing Giga to every country in the world. And it's very, very exciting for us to be here again.
Great. Thank you very much.
Cool. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Continue like this, like that. Thank you, Mr. Wong, Mr. Fabian. Good work. And now, time to discuss with a panel discussion titled Uniting for Connectivity, Partners' Role in Advancing Giga's Vision. Now we want to show the partnership in Giga's world with these three levels, with the Spanish government, the Generalitat de Catalunya, and the Barcelona City Council, and why they decided to support and encourage this project. There are lots of reasons, obviously, but please stay tuned and listen actively these speakers. What are they going to show? Proposing new opportunities. So it's a pleasure to introduce Anton Leis Garcia, Director of the Spanish Agency for International Development Cooperation. I see it. Thank you very much, Anton, to be here to join this panel session.
Thanks.
I'd like to introduce Liliana Arroyo Moliné, Director General for Digital Society and the Department of Business and Labor from Generalitat de Catalunya. Thank you, Liliana.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again. And then it's a pleasure to introduce Michael Donaldson, Director General of the Fundació Barcelona Institute of Technology for the Habitat of Barcelona City Council. Nice to see you, Michael. Now, and we are going to introduce the moderator, Jane Coffin, Giga Barcelona Tech Center co-lead from ITU. So, Jane, it's your turn to be the host and the MC. But just a second to say and share with you an African proverb I am very fond of, that says that if you want to go fast, be faster, go alone. But if you want to go farther, go together. This is the image. This is the mission. So let's go.
Excellent.
Jane.
I'm going to stand up over here because I roam around. It's easier for me. Thank you very much to Chris and Alex for fabulous presenters before the co-leads of the Giga project. As our announcer has given you the great information about who we have here, I'm going to start with Anton.
Yes.
Leis Garcia from ICID. Anton, why has Spain chosen to support Giga?
Well, that's a big question. We have done so because we think it is not just the right thing to do, but also the sensible thing to do. I think everyone here knows what the state of the world is. We have a lot of humanitarian crises. We are working closely on this with UNICEF, which is also a humanitarian organization, and we know what is going on from Ukraine to Palestine. We also know that there are, beyond conflicts, other protracted crises, other crises behind the scene, the climate crisis as well, which has a disproportionate effect on children. And we are seeing record numbers of people seeking humanitarian aid, and challenges like the climate emergency, inequalities, poverty, and overall lack of progress or sufficient progress to meeting the SDGs. So when we look at how we work, typically development cooperation agencies such as ourselves or governments, we used to work in silos, each of us doing our own thing. In our case, channeling the solidarity of the Spanish people, investing in projects. Well, that alone will not do. I think we need to establish new partnerships. There is, of course, the multi-level government partnership that is represented in this panel, but also working with international organizations, the ITU and UNICEF, that are close partners of us, and the private sectors, and the digital ecosystem of Barcelona, or the digital ecosystem worldwide, but also the one in Barcelona. That's why we push hard for Barcelona to be the headquarters of part of the Giga operation. So this is important for us because number one, there is SDG 4, education, inclusive and quality education, which is of course at the core of the SDGs. There is the question of children. And when we look at connectivity, and one of our interests as a development agency or a development actor is, of course, to make sure that we bridge those gaps in access to connectivity among the most vulnerable population. Children are, needless to say, some of the most vulnerable groups in the world. And we are seeing 2.3 billion children that do not have connectivity as we speak now. There are 6 million schools. Colleagues were mentioning this before. And the overall goal here is, through this multi-actor alliance or partnership, is to make sure that everyone gets access to connectivity. This is not only important for education, for effective education, and we have a lot to catch up in the pandemic in many of the countries where we work. And 93%, by the way, of these children that are not connected, that have no connectivity, are in developing countries. There are deep scars of the pandemic in countries like Honduras, in Mexico. Kids lost 2 academic years. Yeah. The impact of that in terms of human capital is enormous, and in terms of sustainable development. So we've seen that children with connectivity, and we've seen it also at home here in Spain, those who had access to the internet were able to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. And actually some of the children actually got better because they learned skills that would otherwise not get in school. Okay, so this project is clearly trying to address that. So that's number one. It really fits the SDGs and our development priorities. Number two, we think as Spain we have quite a bit to offer in terms of the digital world. We've been championing within the EU a new IA Act in terms of how to govern this, because there are clearly 2 digital worlds, one in which we act and we shape it from public policy, and it is inclusive. No one is left behind. No child is left behind, actually. And another one in which this is just, the benefits of digitalization are only accrued by a small group of people. Inequalities within countries and among countries increase, and so on. So in terms of the governance of digitalization, there is also a charter of digital rights in Spain. These are all good practices that we want to project outside. Development cooperation is also about that. And Giga gives us this opportunity as well of sharing what we think is good that has been done here for the interest of other partner countries. And number 3, I would say, is actually tackling all these crises. These children are very important. Having them in school and having them learning, getting digital skills, being connected is going to be fundamental throughout their lives. It's going to be good for their nutrition. It's going to be good for their vaccination. There is a lot of zero-dose children, children that were not vaccinated during the pandemic. Getting them in school is, of course, very important. Getting them in a school that provides the quality education that we need in the future. When we studied, none of this was there. These children need clearly to be connected, to be citizens of the world, and to make sure that they have opportunities in life. So for all these reasons, we think this is like a very worthy project. We've been supporting it from the start, and we are very, very happy that the project is benefiting from this multi-stakeholder partnership and from the ecosystem of the Barcelona digital community.
Thank you very much. And just one more quick question for you. So would you say that the Giga project aligns with all of your objectives that you're looking at?
It certainly does. And it certainly does at a crucial time in which supporting children in this context. We are not talking just about regular children in school. We are talking about some of the most vulnerable, most disconnected in places that are remotely located, where actually years ago it would be unimaginable that education of any sort would reach, but certainly connectivity and being able to harness the power of the internet, of data, and so on. Actually, as a further step, we've been working with UNHCR, another partner of ours on the humanitarian front, to make sure that also refugee children have access to digitalization and connectivity. And we've been supporting them recently, and as part of this collaboration, we're asking them actually to harness all the experience and the good practices that are coming out of Giga, because the challenges we have, like connecting these 2.3 billion children, is just too big for any of us, certainly governments, to tackle alone. And that's why we actually need to work together. So yes, this is completely aligned with our priorities. We have a new development cooperation law. We are growing our development cooperation. When other countries are like erecting walls, we are choosing to build bridges and to confront these issues. And we think there is a win-win situation. If we provide access to this, to connectivity to all these children, even Spanish citizens will be better protected at home. This is not a zero-sum game. It's really certainly win-win. It's an investment on everybody's prosperity and safety and peace and a world that is more sustainable and just for everyone.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Partnership and investment for prosperity. Liliana, you're up next. Giga believes in the power of digital transformation. What key Giga innovations have inspired the Generalitat de Catalunya to support Giga?
Nice. Well, first of all, thank you for having us, and it's an honor to be part of this Giga project, also along with all the levels of the administration here in Barcelona, in Catalonia and Spain. From our perspective, the first thing that it's incredible to us of Giga is that we are tackling a structural problem, which is a digital divide, of course, and from the very basic of the very, very grounding things, which is the access divide, facilitating access to every children. But then, if we go into details, there are three main aspects that grab our attention. The first thing is that it's open source. So as soon as we are trying to develop solutions for everyone, open source it's a good option always. Also in terms of sovereignty and autonomy. So this is the one thing. Another thing is the dots that Chris and Alex were showing before, which is the matter of mapping. It's not only placing dots on a graph. It's also locating. It's also making present, and it's also monitoring the access to internet. So this continuous monitorization, we think it's important. Even in our region, where all the public schools are connected, or almost all public schools in Catalonia are connected to high quality internet. Mostly using fiber optics, but this is not an excuse to keep growing, to keep putting efforts on monitoring that it's not only connected, but that it's up and running. So this is the second thing, and the third one, and the one that I'm most interested in, it's how can we use the schools as a starting point, as a starting point for hubs of connectivity. So it's not only a matter of plugging, it's also a matter of creating a community.
Right.
Because when you connect schools, you can connect families, you can connect professionals, you can connect other dimensions of the society. And as Antonio was saying, we think that a very connected world is also a step forward towards a cohesive community, global sense, and global sense of belonging, which is something that we understand that goes after this connectivity challenge that we are pursuing with Giga.
Perfect. Would you also say that the Giga initiative resonates with your digitalization strategy here in Catalonia?
It's quite connected, despite for some people might not be evident for the reason I was saying. All the public schools in Catalonia are connected to the internet at the moment, and with good quality and with speed. But we think that we can contribute to the Giga project, and that the Giga project offers us opportunities, for instance, to replicate the solutions that can be developed from Barcelona, from the vibrant ecosystem that we are holding here and that we are pushing forward. So all this ecosystem can develop solutions that can be replicated. We are eager to share our lessons learned, which are not definitive, but I would say that we have done some steps that can be, we hope, are of inspiration of other countries and other regions. So given that the power of Giga is connecting the care, education, dignity, sovereignty of vulnerable people, this is a matter for everyone. It's a matter for everyone. And as Antonio was saying, we also have a Charter of Digital Rights. And we understand that being connected and closing the digital divide in terms of access is one and the main, the first one that we need to cover. But beyond that, we also need to capacitate, that we are in the European Year of Digital Skills. So we need digital skills for everyone. We need to capacitate not only students, but also teachers that can, being accompanying them, but also the families and all the people around. So under the perspective of the Digital Charter of Rights and Responsibilities, because we understand that citizens can be co-creators and reshaping the future, so the present and the future of in digital terms of the world we live in. So we think that it's a good step forward. And the Catalan Charter, along with the Spanish one, I think that all the accents that we put, it's not only being passive users, but also having the capacity to make critical use of all these tools. And again, having open source opportunities and alternatives, I think it's quite important. And last but not least, we also think that we need a new social contract in terms of how the digital world needs to be conceived and how relations and talent and the future needs to be conceived. And we think that this new digital contract, it's only possible if we unite forces, and then we can progress towards an education systems that are plenty of opportunities for everyone, and for the kids that are today in school or that will be tomorrow sitting in school. They can be citizens, they can be tech developers, they can be decision makers, they can be whatever they want to be, because they have had the opportunity to choose.
Fabulous. So a new social contract for education, learning, human capacity development, and connecting a school is connecting your community. Let's do it. Yeah?
Let's go.
Okay, let's go. Michael, you're up next. Barcelona is the home of Giga's innovative connectivity solutions through the fabulous Barcelona Giga Technology Center. And thank you to Cisco, if you're anywhere near us. Thank you for hosting us, and thank you to Michael and his team for having us hosted there as well. We really appreciate it. How does the Giga Technology Center contribute to Barcelona's dynamic innovation ecosystem and its appeal to international talent?
Right. Thanks, Jane. Thanks, everyone. Delighted to be here. I'd say that I was kind of thinking about the question that I like to focus on 4 different messages that related Giga's project with Barcelona City Hall policies regarding to digital connection, talent, and so on. And said the first, and it's something that Anton and Liliana have already pointed out, I think that having Giga here in Barcelona sends a powerful message on how public administrations from different levels can merge, can collaborate when it comes to solve real problems like connecting all the schools all around the world. I mean, it's if you read on the media, if you take the cover of the newspaper, it's all about fighting between Generalitat and City Hall and so on. But as I said, when it comes to real and important things such as Giga, we didn't have any problem to sit together at the same table to say, okay, this is something really important for the world, for Barcelona, for Catalonia, and for the state. So let's commit on this thing. And I think this is sending a first important message, a message on how we try to do things from Barcelona City Hall. Second one, and it's something that has also been mentioned before. It's about the ecosystem, the digital ecosystem in Barcelona. Of course, I mean, having this Mobile World Congress on these days, I mean, we don't need to extend on the importance on the digital ecosystem for the City Hall of Barcelona, but we had the Smart City Expo, we had the ICE, so our huge events, big events, and then I'd say that maybe they are not as famous, they are not in the front of the news, but on a daily basis, there is a lot of initiatives, a lot of projects, a lot of companies, startups. We've got the 4 years from now, which is fantastic. A lot of research centers, universities, and as well as Liliana was mentioned, from early stages and school children are working on the digital dimension. So it fits perfectly in that sense. I mean, it's just a new stakeholder, not only one more stakeholder, but a very important one. So it's great to have you here in Barcelona. Then I'd say that Barcelona ambition on the international dimension is fulfilled having a UN agency in Barcelona. The way we can relate, or the way we can connect local and global problems between the tasks we're doing on daily basis in the City Hall and the tasks that you're doing from the UN perspective, I think it's really perfect. And I think, I mean, everybody knows what the UN means. So it's great that they are located in a physical space such as Calalier. We're talking about also, and you've just mentioned it, we're talking about Calalier, that not only hosts the Agency for Innovation, urban agency for City Hall of Barcelona, it hosts Giga, but it also hosts Cisco, the technological center. So we're talking about 3 different stakeholders, private, public, and international agency, that they are all working underneath the driver of innovation and digital innovation, that they want to have an impact. They want to transform realities. They want to change. They want to enrich, empower the condition of the citizens of the world. And that's something that from different perspectives, we are all carrying it, from different competences, resources. We're all doing the same from each of our organization. And that's something that it also, it's very linked on the way from the City Hall perspective, and especially from the innovation perspective, we're trying to tackle the new problems, we're trying to tackle new challenges. The world is evolving so fast. We are facing problems that 20 years ago were not even in the agenda, such as the digital divide or the fight against climate change. We need new perspectives, we need new resources, we need innovation, we need digital disruptions. We need to do it all along together, trying to merge the effort from all the different stakeholders, such as Giga, such as Cisco, such as the different public administration. And that's an approach that fits perfect with the mission-oriented, what Machu tells the mission-oriented, and that's something that we feel very comfortable, how to gather all the ecosystem to tackle a common problem from different responsibilities, different approaches, but trying to focus on the same problem. So we are really happy to host all along with the 3 different public administrations to host Giga in Barcelona. The last minute I wanted to talk is about talent. Talent is a huge problem when we talk in terms of digital enterprises. When you go and talk to the big companies, they're always talking to you about the lack of talent. Talent, it's about creating talent, it's about retaining talent, and it's also about kind of bringing talent. Having a UN agency, I think it helps us a lot to talk or to work on these 3 dimensions. I mean, I can imagine people, children from early stages, knowing that they might be able to work for a UN agency, and knowing that they don't have to leave the city of Barcelona, that they can keep in their city but work on an international dimension. I think it's great. Obviously, UN agency Giga is bringing talent all around the world. I mean, it's great. I do work with you all the day, and you can see people from all around the world working in the same building, so that's great. And the way you are connected with our digital ecosystem is going to help a lot to have people working from the different companies working in Giga, and maybe why not people working from Giga going to different companies. So I think it matches perfectly on retaining, creating, and bringing talent on the digital dimension.
Thank you so much, Michael. So with our wonderful panelists here, we're going to do a bit of a speed round, so don't leave. But thank you very much. There's partnership, there's local innovation, there's hope for children, and there's also this international bringing everything together. And thank you to all of you because you're making it happen with the Giga initiative, and this is very exciting. It's going to have ramifications beyond Barcelona. Okay, so each of you have this question. What are your future expectations for Giga? And what should be its main priorities in the coming years? And I'm going to start with Liliana.
Nice. Well, one of the desires we have is that Michael was also mentioning. So this connection, this intense connection with the Catalan, Spanish, and Barcelonian ecosystem, which is vibrant. And another aspect we would like to put on the table is that we need to build the children's future with the children. So we have an experience on that, creating the Charter of Digital Rights. We have a specific chapter that we have been developing with children and adolescents. And next month we're going to present a manifesto of what are for them, what kind of digital rights and responsibilities they envision for their generation. And I think that this is an approach which is a bottom-up approach, which I think that it can be quite interesting in terms of the Giga project as well, which is how to build on the top of infrastructure. How can we build this cohesive future society, which is interconnected thanks to the digital environments?
Yeah, we often used to say the human nuts build the nets, and this human network is helping build the networks with children. And it's very interesting to hear about the manifesto because it would be very interesting to see if we could get other countries to work on that too.
Of course.
Brought to you by Spain, taking it global. Okay, so to you, Antoine, what are your future expectations for Giga, and what should be its main priorities in the coming years?
Well, I think the expectation would be for Giga to grow, to flourish, to get at full speed. 2030 is around the corner, and there are still many children that are not reached by connectivity. It's going to be increasingly difficult, so there is obviously an upward slope in terms of the cost. The last children will be much more difficult to reach, and I think it is important that we progress. That will require, of course, all sorts of support and more and better and wider and stronger alliances. That means funding, of course, and we are ready to do our part. But beyond the funding, I think we need everyone to get on board to make sure that we grow in scale and that we reach all these children. And in particular, we reach those children that are more and more difficult to reach. That's why I mentioned refugees and people that are not just children, and as part of their age, they are disadvantaged, they are vulnerable, but they are actually children from certain ethnic groups, indigenous peoples in Latin America, people that live in remote areas, people that are refugees and people in displacement and so on. And it's going to be more and more difficult to reach them. So I think what I would expect is that we continue growing. If possible, as Liliana was saying, building these alliances here at home in Barcelona with the local businesses, all these people around here doing business, that they turn to this, because this is a win-win partnership. Private sector, people investing here can get a return as well. This is future customers, these are future digital citizens, future consumers that can be part of an inclusive digital world.
Thank you very much. And just a shout out to our colleague Naroa. I'm not sure if she's here. She's the CTO of the Giga Center. Naroa, wave your hand. She has done so much work to connect with the local ecosystem here, with different universities and technical experts. So precisely to what you're saying, she's helping grow the system and the initiative. So a shout out to Naroa and team. Michael, same question. What are your future expectations for Giga, and what should be its main priorities in the coming years, from your perspective?
it's a little bit difficult to talk about the future because I hardly know what I'm going to have for lunch or who am I going to have lunch right now. But in terms of expectation, I'd say, and relating to what I was pointing out before, talking about the talent and all, I would love the way Giga could connect with all our schools in Barcelona, letting them know that Giga is here in Barcelona, letting them know what you are doing, what's this ambition in terms of international development, because certainly true that in terms of connectivity, schools in Barcelona have no problem in terms of access. But when we're talking about digital divide, it's not only about the access of internet, it's also about capacity, learning, the profiles. We know that the internet now is a kind of a door to the rest of rights. So I think it's very important if you could not only work in global terms, which is the main and the most important thing you have to do, but also kind of imbricate with all our schools in Barcelona and try to find new alliance in terms of what I was saying, global and local problems. So that would be my future expectation.
I think it'd be really neat to have the children come through the center from here if you're mapping. So, and there's as you can see, the maps are part of the most important thing that we're doing. It's showing everyone where schools are and are not connected. And if you could do it here, why not? Right? Okay, one last question, speed round, 1 minute each. In a single sentence, what should other entities do to support Giga? Liliana.
Because we need everyone to be part of the change to tackle this digital divide that we are facing.
Bravo. We need change. Right on. Okay, Antoine.
I would say because it's not just the right thing to do, but also the sensible thing to do. You know, again, when we look at development cooperation, I've been, of course, fundraising with our Ministry of Finance to keep on increasing our development cooperation budgets and investing in initiatives like this one. We always say that what we do is not an expenditure, it's an investment. So I think I would double down on this and to say to invest in connecting children in schools everywhere is clearly an investment with clear returns everywhere you look at it, from the solidarity perspective or even, you know, in terms of what other actors can get out of this.
Bravo. So this is a shameless plug for investment into Giga. Meet Vivian over here, who's one of my colleagues who can help with that. If you want to talk to her, Chris or Alex, we would love for you to help support Giga. Michael, same thing in a single sentence. What should other entities do to support Giga?
I'll say more or less the same. I'll say raise your head, look beyond what you're doing on your daily basis, and be part of a common goal such as Giga's mission.
Bravo. Thank you to our panel. Round of applause, please. Woohoo! And we have one final speaker who's going to help us close.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for this interesting panel. Thank you for your heart and your brain in focus on. Yes, that's time. Not. If you could please stay here with us because we want to listen. Jose Maria Vera, UNICEF Spain Executive Director. Just yes, he wants to give us some words.
I will be really brief. Just four quick messages as closing remarks. And the first one is thanking you three for being here, for your support. We sometimes read about difficulties between the three in many other areas in the news media, and it's so exciting to see that when it comes to children's rights and the most vulnerable ones of them, you join forces and you commit with it, not only because of funding them, but also in terms of values and of your principles. So thanks a lot to the three of you coming from UNICEF Spain. Second message is that this is the second panel in this that we are here listening to that is speaking about children's rights, the most vulnerable ones often in this Congress, and it's so important. It doesn't happen very often that we have this opportunity to bring development programs and the situation of the most vulnerable, and even more when it comes to children needs, to this place. And it's so relevant. We've seen during this panel that it's absolutely key that technology, that experts, the private sector comes and join efforts with us to push for connectivity in this case or any other of the key challenges that children have across the world. Third is that so important, and I think it has been great that you have brought Liliana, the voice of children. They are the ones that should be saying also and should be speaking for themselves. They have the right to participate, and they do voice, and they do bring their joined voices to push us for change. They are the ones behind this initiative. I know it well from UNICEF. It's so relevant what children say, what they need. We listen to them and we push for this to happen with all of you, obviously. And finally, it is so important to have partnerships. And we as UNICEF Spain, we are committed, and we have been, and we're working with ITU and with UNICEF and with UNICEF with Giga to share it with the media, local media, national media, to bring the public interest, open to consider schools. We work with many schools in Barcelona and across Spain with the private sector. We desperately need more support, more connections to bring connectivity to every child across the world. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your commitment to this big issue.
Thank you. Bravo. Great.
Thank you, Jose Maria Vera, for your words. Now this is the proposal, so we continue with this big effort, but very, very pleased to have you here. Thank you.